Chinese luxury SUVs from China are now available in Canada, and at least two of them are traps that look perfect on paper. One of them has a political problem nobody is talking about, and the one that makes the most sense for Canadian winters, Canadian distances, and Canadian service realities is not the one anyone expects. The vehicle that arguably opened Canadian minds to this category arrives first, not because it is the best, but because it established the baseline. The Hongqi EHS9 is a statement, a full-size electric SUV that carries the weight of being China's most prominent luxury nameplate, a brand with government heritage and an identity built around formality and presence. Inside, the cabin takes a deliberate, almost old-world approach. Long rear seat travel, genuine attention to rear passenger comfort, and a quietness at highway speed that surprises. It does not lean on gimmickry. The materials are considered not flashy, but here is where the first real doubt lands. Hongqi's service footprint in Canada is thin. Ownership in Toronto or Vancouver presents a different reality than ownership in Calgary or Saskatoon. Parts lead times are a legitimate concern, and warranty support depends heavily on which importer channel is active in a given province. For urban buyers who treat a vehicle as a status object and have access to a dedicated service contact, the EHS9 has genuine presence. For anyone who drives long distances, relies on the vehicle in sub-20 conditions regularly, and cannot afford service delays, the risk calculus looks different. This one fits a narrow, specific buyer. BYD's positioning in Canada has been deliberate and cautious. The Tang, their flagship three-row SUV, arrives with more engineering depth than its pricing might initially suggest. The plug-in hybrid variant is particularly relevant for Canada. It addresses range anxiety on long intercity drives, handles cold weather with more flexibility than a pure EV, and delivers genuine interior refinement, leather that does not feel apologetic, a driving position that communicates solidity, and enough rear seat space to make the third row usable for smaller adults. The open loop here is about brand trust. BYD has earned credibility in fleet and commercial contexts globally. But Canadian consumer trust is a different thing, built slowly through dealer experience, roadside assistance responsiveness, and the quiet confidence that comes from seeing the brand's service centers present in one city. That infrastructure is being built, but it is uneven. Buyers in major metropolitan areas are better positioned. The Tang PHEV makes a rational case in the right context. Whether the brand earns that trust over a 3-year ownership cycle is the question that only time answers. This is the vehicle that looks most dangerous on a spec sheet comparison. The NIO ET7, and by extension, NIO's SUV lineup, where available through Canadian channels, arrives with technology integration that reads impressively, over-the-air update architecture, an advanced driver assistance suite, and interior materials that photograph beautifully. The screens are large. The ambient lighting is sophisticated. At a glance, it competes with a BMW 7 Series interior in ways that seem impossible at the price. Then the harder questions arrive. NIO's battery swap model, celebrated in China, is not operational in Canada. The charging network that makes the ownership experience fluid in Shanghai does not exist here. Software stability across Canadian LTE networks and in deep cold conditions has shown inconsistencies in real-world reports. Some buyers will call this the future of luxury. Others will call it a lease-only gamble. Both arguments have merit. The honest position is that NIO's product quality is real, but the support ecosystem in Canada is not yet mature enough to carry the ownership experience. The vehicle impresses. The infrastructure around it does not yet match that impression. The Lynk & Co. 09 occupies interesting territory. Geely's premium sub-brand has genuine engineering credibility. The platform shares DNA with Volvo's architecture, and that lineage shows in structural rigidity, passive safety performance, and a ride that absorbs broken pavement with more composure than competitors in its price range. The interior is modern without being chaotic. The rear seat is genuinely comfortable. The provincial reality is this: Where Lynk & Co. has established a service arrangement, ownership is viable. Where it has not, buyers are managing an import with limited local support. In British Columbia and Ontario, the picture is more encouraging. In Atlantic Canada or the Territories, it requires a buyer willing to be self-sufficient. The PHEV powertrain is sensible for Canadian mixed-use driving. Cold weather thermal management is above average for the segment. This is a vehicle that rewards research into local availability before any decision. Across this entire category, one concern surfaces more persistently than any other: resale value. Chinese luxury SUVs, regardless of their actual quality, are subject to market perception that drives depreciation curves steeper than European or Japanese equivalents. This is not speculation. It is what happens when brand recognition is still being built and when buyers associate uncertainty with loss of value. The models discussed so far all carry this reality. It does not make them wrong purchases. It makes them purchases that require clear-eyed thinking about total cost of ownership versus upfront price advantage. And it is worth noting that the vehicles still ahead in this investigation carry this same weight. Some manage it better than others, and one carries an additional layer of external risk that has nothing to do with the vehicle itself. The Li Auto L9 is the vehicle in this category that changes the conversation in a specific way. It does not try to be a European luxury SUV. It is engineered for large family utility with a premium execution that takes the family SUV brief more seriously than most competitors across any origin. The extended range electric system addresses cold weather range anxiety more honestly than pure EV alternatives. The combustion generator maintains range and cabin heat in ways that pure EV thermal management cannot replicate at -30. The interior is generous, the rear entertainment system is genuinely usable, and the ride tuning prioritizes passenger comfort over sporting pretense. The question that follows: does it feel like luxury, or does it feel like expensive? The distinction matters. The L9 leans toward comfort and capability over prestige. For buyers who have families, drive mixed urban and highway routes, and value practicality wrapped in quality, it makes a serious argument. Legacy brands in the three-row luxury space, the Lexus LX, the Acura MDX, have historically owned this brief. The L9 is a genuine challenge to that ownership. Whether it's the most defensible overall Canada buy is a question that still has two vehicles left to answer. The XPeng G9 enters the conversation carrying the most aggressive technology integration of any vehicle in this category. It is built around software-first principles in a way that Tesla normalized, but XPeng executes with more interior material investment. The XPilot driver assistance system has logged real-world highway hours that demonstrate meaningful capability. The charging architecture is robust. The platform is stable. Cold weather performance is where the investigation gets careful. Real-world winter range drop on pure EVs in Canadian conditions, consistent sub-zero temperatures, highway speeds, cabin heating load regularly reaches 30 to 40% below rated figures. The G9 is not immune to this. Urban buyers who charge at home nightly manage this reality more easily than buyers who depend on public fast charging networks on longer routes. Software updates have addressed some thermal management behavior, but the honest position is that any pure EV in Canada requires winter planning that combustion vehicle owners do not face. The G9 rewards that planning better than most. The Voya Free enters at a point in this investigation where the question of what luxury actually means has been building for several sections. It resolves that question more convincingly than expected. The Voya Free's interior, developed under Dongfeng's premium sub-brand, with investment in acoustic materials, seat craftsmanship, and dashboard material selection, delivers something that feels considered rather than assembled. Road noise suppression is exceptional for the segment. The rear seat is tuned for comfort in a way that communicates that passengers were the primary consideration, not an afterthought. The limitation is distribution. Voya's Canadian presence is still being built, and the purchase experience depends significantly on which province and which channel is involved. For buyers who can access it properly, this is the model that most closely answers the real luxury, not just screens open loop that opened this investigation. It is not the most practical choice in Canada. It is the most convincing luxury experience in the category. But practical and convincing are two different verdicts, and the final answer to which model earns, both simultaneously, still has not arrived. The Zeekr 009, where available through Canadian import channels, is a premium electric MPV that does not fit neatly into SUV conventions, and that is precisely what makes it interesting. The interior space and seat configuration offer something genuinely different from three-row SUVs. The build quality is verifiable and consistent with premium European MPV standards. For urban buyers with specific family logistics, it solves problems that conventional SUVs do not. The trade-off is segment familiarity. Canadian buyers overwhelmingly default to SUV body styles, and an MPV requires a buyer willing to step outside that convention. Insurance and repair routing is also worth investigating before purchase. Parts sourcing for lower volume models adds lead time risk that buyers should price into their decision. Two vehicles remain. One carries the most political uncertainty of anything in this category. The other has something none of the others can claim: time already served on Canadian roads. The 80M9, co-developed between Ceres and Huawei, arrives carrying the most aggressive technology argument in this entire category. Huawei's involvement is not cosmetic. The HarmonyOS cockpit integration, the acoustic engineering, and the driver assistance architecture reflect genuine R&D investment that shows in daily use. The interior display coordination is the most coherent of any Chinese luxury SUV available in Canada, operating as a unified system rather than a collection of screens bolted together as an afterthought. Rear seat comfort is treated seriously, with isolation levels that hold up against vehicles costing significantly more. The open loop here is one of the most pointed in this investigation. Huawei's presence in Canadian technology infrastructure has been politically sensitive, and that context does not disappear when the brand appears on a vehicle dashboard. Whether that translates into regulatory friction, resale, hesitation, or simply buyer reluctance in certain markets is a question without a clean answer yet. Some buyers will treat the technology integration as a genuine differentiator. Others will treat the brand association as a reason to pause. Both reactions are rational. What is not rational is ignoring the question entirely before signing. The 80M9 is the most technologically ambitious vehicle in this category. It is also the one that carries the most external uncertainty beyond the vehicle itself. One vehicle remains, and it is the one that answers a completely different question. Before any other Chinese brand had established real Canadian dealer presence, Great Wall Motors was already moving. The GWM Haval H9 does not arrive with the interior drama of some competitors in this investigation. It arrives with something more valuable for a significant portion of Canadian buyers: an established service network, parts availability that does not require weeks of waiting, and a proven cold weather track record accumulated through actual Canadian ownership rather than laboratory projections. The H9 is a body-on-frame SUV in a category that has largely moved to unibody platforms, and that distinction matters in specific Canadian contexts: towing, rough terrain, northern routes where ground clearance and mechanical simplicity outweigh ride refinement. The interior is honest rather than aspirational. It does not attempt to replicate a European luxury cabin and does not pretend otherwise. For buyers in smaller cities, rural areas, or provinces where the newer Chinese luxury brands have no service footprint at all, the H9 resolves the ownership risk question more cleanly than any other model in this category. It is not the most exciting answer. In Canada, exciting and practical are frequently not the same thing. which brings the investigation to its final position. After covering the full range, from statement vehicles with thin service networks to family-focused extended range systems, to genuine luxury craftsmanship with distribution challenges, to a technology flagship with political headwinds, to the brand that simply showed up first and stayed. The most defensible overall Canada purchase in this category is the Li Auto L9. The reasoning is grounded in Canadian-specific conditions rather than global spec sheet comparison. The extended range electric system eliminates cold weather pure EV anxiety. The service network, while still growing, is more developed than most competitors in this space. The interior quality and rear passenger comfort meet the brief that luxury SUV buyers carry into a showroom. The resale risk exists, as it does across the category, but the combination of practical powertrain, real family usability, and improving support infrastructure makes the ownership case more durable than any alternative here. The Voya Free is the more emotionally compelling answer to the luxury question. The Haval H9 is the safer bet for buyers outside major urban markets. The Ido M9 is the most impressive technology package, if the external uncertainty does not factor into the decision. But as an all-conditions, all-seasons, family-realistic Canada purchase, the Li Auto L9 carries the argument most honestly. The question that remains open, and it is worth genuine debate, is whether a Chinese luxury SUV with a still-developing Canadian track record deserves the same purchase confidence as a Lexus or Genesis with decades of dealer network and resale data behind it. The specs say yes. The ownership history says it is still being written. Where that leaves Canadian buyers willing to be early is a question only the next 3 years will answer cleanly. One category down. The next video goes somewhere most automotive channels avoid, a segment where the numbers make sense on paper, but the real-world ownership story is almost never told honestly. It is already up.